Hello, my name is Janice B Gordon, and this is Scale Your Sales Podcast. Welcome to Scale Your Sales Podcast, listed number 9 of 43 best podcasts for every sales professional. I am Janice B Gordon, the customer growth expert and recognized as the RevTech strategist of 2024. In today's episode of Scale Your Sales Podcast, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of interviewing a guest, in actual fact, it was a guest that said to me, you really need to talk more about your case studies, the people that you work with. And obviously I can't name names, but I can talk about the impact of what I do and the way that I approach my work. So I hope you find this interesting. I thought it would be good to record this at this time of year when we're thinking about having a break and going into 2026, just to demonstrate some of the work that I've done in 2025. So I'm going to be talking about some of the scenes to share two client stories and show you really what happened when these companies got serious about scaling their sales success. So one story is about the transformation of their hiring process, moving away from the guesswork and more to a data-informed process that I introduced to them. The other is about developing their managers and the team performance so that you can consistently hit quota, and the way that we approach this. Now, these two stories reveal that what truly drives sustainable revenue growth, and that is clarity, alignment, and the courage to do things different. I speak to so many organizations, and even though they don't say it, the undertone is, well, we've always done it that way. Knowing that our customers have evolved enormously, the environment is so much more challenging. If you're doing something that you did in 2024, in 2025, then you're already way behind the curve. You've got to be using new processes and trying new methods, even just piloting them, being open and adaptive enough just to try something different, because you never know, it might just work. All right, let's go into case study number 1. So this was about hiring for future fit salespeople, but we don't always know that. We hire people, and it's very much in a love and a prayer. So let's start with this first story. So a client of mine, I've known them for many years. It was in kind of publishing media, and they had around 28 salespeople across different departments. And I think it was during the pandemic, I did an online training with their team. So I've known them for many years. Now, they have a great product, a competitive product, but they couldn't deliver consistent performance. It would ebb and flow, and there's lots of new incumbents coming in that was challenging what they considered to be their space. It's a real legacy company. The turnover was high, was high, but often the new hires didn't stay. And they wanted to grow beyond what the level that they had been at for many years, and they felt it was very much dependent on the new hires coming in. So it came in and they left, and they came in and left, and they were constantly on this cycle. Managers were hiring based on personality, based on past experience and performance, the classic. Now, like them, they're thinking that they'll do fine. I did, but it wasn't working. They were certainly stuck hitting the guesswork game, and many managers and leaders are in the same method. They speak to recruitment agencies that sell them a really good game, and then 6 months later, they're or 9 months later, they're letting them go if they haven't already left already, and they've lost the investment that they made in the with the agency, because that's only 3 months guaranteed. So we need to change the way that we're doing things. And they came in because I've been talking about this online, in my trainings, in my conversations, about there's a better way to hire salespeople that gives you a guaranteed method. So I thought, oh, let's get her in finally. I could have saved them years of strain. But anyway, so we had the conversation. We decided to pilot. They had a number of people that they wanted to recruit, and we just started with 2. Let them test it out. So the task was really simple, but of course challenging from their point of view, because it was doing something new and different. So stop the evolving door and to help them hire future fit sellers. But I did, first of all, did some work about what did that mean? We're not just hiring for someone to sit in the seat. We're hiring for someone to sit in the seat, stay, develop and grow. What did that mean for their customers in the future? What kind of a revenue operator or a sales rep did you need, not only now but going forward in the way that your customers were evolving, which was quite a new way of approaching it. Normally they were just looking at resumes and someone to sit in a seat, but I wanted them to think a lot bigger and rounder. So we began by benchmarking their team using a data-informed process with sales assessments that I call SCALE. Now, this revealed that only 18% of their hires actually had the right mindset and the right skill set and the right strength that were that enabled them to succeed. We used some of that material that we, or that data that we had gained from what great looks like in their company. But because I had access to a much wider source, that I was also able to benchmark for their industry and their sector and their market, what great looks like in the salesperson, and then take into account their future fit sales model and persona that they were looking for. So once we had all of this data, we were using this as a filter in which to screen. So the potential candidate had to do an assessment, and that assessment either told us that they were recommended for interview or not. They were wasting their time on CV, basically interviewing everybody, which was very time consuming. Was this just narrowed it down to really only about 20% of the people that applied. It said that they matched the criteria that we had set, that we knew that what success looked like. They had the right mindset, they had the right skill set, they had the strengths we were looking for, they could fit in the culture and role. So for that market, for that sector, for that company, these were recommended to hire. So the result was that within 4 months, they the change was visible in that they very quickly hired the 2 that we started and piloted with, and they could see that it took them a lot less time to assess what great was. They also had the guidelines to interview the candidates based upon how they completed the assessments. If there were some grey areas, they could delve into that in the interview to be reassured that this really was the right person for this seat, not only now, but in the future. So the managers felt confident in their decision because they had real data in which to make the decision. The turnover a year later completely dropped off. They would have lost a lot more, but those 2 people are still in role and doing really well. Even better, the leader said to me, for the first time, their hiring process was actually seeing selling in their world, and not just talking about it. They could really see the people were working and working very quickly. We also, it wasn't just about hiring, it was also about the onboarding. That's the real essence of making a role successful, how you onboarded them. So they didn't really have much of an onboarding process. And so we helped them to put that in place as well. But you only have to develop it once. Only need to put in the work once, and that means anyone else coming through. They were so happy that they signed a license to hire. They do the onboarding, 5 more people into the system. They were so pleased with it. So they probably saved about 80% of their time they would have had to have dedicated to their recruitment process. And they were more successful, 90% more successful in getting the right candidate for the right seat. And so that process worked really well. They were very happy, and it saved them a lot of the kind of guesswork of hiring. And so that's the lesson. Data doesn't replace intuition, but it shapes it. It gives you the confidence to hire with absolute security. So I hope you like that case study, and you probably might recognize some of this in your environment as well. Really recruiting people and crossing your fingers behind your back and hoping it works out, and putting lots of energy into the recruitment process, lots of time invested, interviewing people only to realize they're completely a mismatch for your culture, your market, because none of that comes through in the resume, through the traditional hiring process. So this gives you real insight and security that you got the right person for the right seat. So they were very happy. So let me give you another example of developing the team now. So this sales leader talked to me that he wasn't happy about the consistency of results. So the client was a global B2B service company that had different challenges in terms of they weren't growing headcount. They had talented people, talented individual sellers, but they just didn't have enough of them. But the culture was very reactive, and the sales leader that came into role, he'd only been in role about 4 months, wanted to change that reactive sales culture, very much reliant on the managers and not independent enough. And the managers were busy putting out fires all over the place, and he wanted to stop that real frenzy and have more of a planned approach. So he needed to look at changing the culture, perhaps changing some of the people, and wanted to understand what was really going on. And this is a great thing to do when you go first get into role, because sometimes it takes months to actually get your head around what resources you've got, what's the character, what are the strengths. And he needed to turn it around really quickly because it was a very stressful situation. And so my task was to help shift from management to leadership. So even the managers needed to lead better and not be firefighting, to build a culture where people are developed and not directed, not told, do this, do that. And, you can't have an operation that runs on that basis. And again, this may be, very familiar to you if you're a manager, that you're having to direct rather than influence and inspire. So using the scale assessment framework, we're able to look at really what are the strengths and characteristics of the existing team, the existing managers and leaders, and we're able to help the senior leaders to understand what their role really was and how to enable consistent performance rather than control and demand and command and direct. This is not the culture that the CRO leader wanted. So out of that information, we were able to move people around into the more suitable seats. that's often the case. You have right people, but if they're in the wrong seat, they're never, ever going to perform consistently. And there was so much inconsistency in this operation. So it's identifying who is the right person for the right seat. So moving people around, probably letting it go of, you might have to let go of one or two people, but you're not going to find that your revenue goes down. It may actually shoot up because it releases a lot of time and energy wasted on people that are never going to perform. But the thing is, the data is going to be able to tell you that. Those insights that you can't get anywhere else. It's the only sales specific sales assessment that's going to be able to tell you the mindset, the outlook of the person, the skill set in terms of, are they consultative sellers? You know, what is their buy cycle, and understand, are they coachable? So you really want to understand all of that information of what is in your team and where the strengths are. So out of that, there was a few workshops that we needed to run. We also coached the managers to be able to coach the individuals rather than the deals. And so the individual reps felt supported in their role and were able to identify where are the gaps in their with limiting beliefs, or you know, their ability to consultative sell or to close. Where are those gaps? Identify those particular gaps and then coach them within those gaps in order to close them. So most salespeople know what they should be doing, but there's a reason, there's a blockage why they're not actually doing it. So we're able to identify many of those hidden gaps and coach them, the managers, to coach the individuals. Once you're able to coach the managers and they understand how to use that data that they've got on the individual, they can continue to do it. They don't need any more support. They're able to coach the individuals in their team to be able to perform in their highest abilities consistently. So each manager built a 90-day coaching plan. So that's weekly coaching. They managed to get them down to 15 minutes a week, but that was enough. And so it introduced peer accountability sessions as well. And that helped with the culture. It's a culture of coaching by having the peer accountability sessions. And so learning became part of the rhythm and the environment, changing the culture. So the results was that in 6 months, the engagement scores it rose from more or less 0 to 35%. And the revenue per rep went up by 27%. So you can imagine the underperformers were now hitting target. One manager told me, I used to manage numbers, now I lead people. And that's the difference. That's what you want. They're not firefighting anymore. And this is the moment you know that you've really transformed not only the individuals, not only the managers, not only supported the leader, but the whole culture. When leadership evolves from what is control more to empowering type of environment, and that was very satisfying to see in this environment. But it's something where it happens again and again, and you may recognize it. And if you're a sales leader that's going into a new role, this is a great thing to do, to assess the entire team so you know what you've got and you can make those decisions really quickly and get the results even quicker. So I hope you've enjoyed that second case study that's talking about how you can develop your team and what is the data-informed methods that you can use in order to develop the team that we all want. Both of these stories remind me that growth always starts with people. I always talk a lot on the podcast about AI and the tech stack, but it's really, if you're in sales, it's the core to sales success is always, always, always the people. And it's that's what creates the sustainable systems. Now, whether it's hiring the right talent or empowering your managers, the key is clarity, alignment, and consistent actions. Now, if you'd like to consider how Scale data informed process can help you and your organization to hire smarter, to lead stronger, to grow faster, then do connect with me on LinkedIn or visit my scaleyourselves.co.uk. There's lots of information about the framework and Scale. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you're enjoying Scale Your Sales podcast. We are in its 6th year, coming up to 6.5 years now. We normally interview guests, and sometimes I come on and just talk to camera about either a case study or give you some training on some insights that I think are relevant that you need to know today. So please do follow me on LinkedIn. I have an amazing LinkedIn newsletter where I delve into deeper from conversations I've had with my clients and things that are topical and top of mind. I also have a monthly live where I invite a guest, or sometimes I'm on just me on the live and we're talking about that particular theme for the month and that subject. And I love to get your comments and responses. So please do ring my bell. Please do continue to follow and comment on the podcast. And I'd love to hear from you. If you listen to this, then make sure that you comment and give me your feedback. And if you share some of the issues that I've highlighted here, if it resonates with you that this is what's happening in your company, then please let me know. So thank you again. This is Scale Your Sales podcast, and I'm Janice B Gordon, the customer growth expert. If you enjoy this episode of Scale Your Sales podcast, explore other episodes of insightful guest conversations or watch the caption show on YouTube. Remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode filled with strategies to help you scale your sales. I love to hear your thoughts, so please share your views and leave a review on iTunes. It helps us reach more revenue generators just like you. So until next time, keep scaling your sales.